Hey guys, so today we are going to be testing out the new Duncan Hines Keto yellow cake mix. It's pretty simple to prepare. It just needs 3 ingredients: oil, eggs, and water. And the ingredients in this cake mix is actually pretty decent for a commercial cake mix. So I thought we'd test it out, see what it's like, and I'm also going to make a chocolate American style keto buttercream to go on top. So let's get started. So the ingredients called for coconut oil, but I'm actually going to use melted butter. And it also called for water as the liquid, but I'm actually going to use almond milk. And I have all my ingredients at room temperature. And then it called for 3 eggs, so I'm just using 3 large eggs. So I'm just mixing the wet ingredients together really well. And I'm just mixing it with a spoon. You totally don't need a mixer or hand mixer for this. Just a spoon works just fine. And then I'm going to add in the actual cake mix. And this cake mix at my Walmart was around $4.50 a box, and it only makes 1 8-inch cake round, unlike a typical box cake mix that makes 2 8-inch cake rounds. So it is a little more on the expensive side, considering you would have to buy 2 of these mixes to make a full-size cake. But, you know, if you're just making it for a special occasion, you know, that's $10 really, you know, that's much cheaper than going to a specialty bakery. So for a few times a year, it's, you know, the cost is okay. So here I've got my 8-inch cake pan, and I am just folding some parchment paper to cut out, just to make it easier to remove the cake when it's done baking. And I'm just going to add that piece of parchment to the bottom of my cake pan, and then I'm just going to lightly spray the cake pan before I add the batter. Now the batter sat for a couple minutes while I was doing this, and it did thicken up and get a little spongy. The texture was a little spongy, sort of typical if you make a homemade keto cake. Most of the time they are a little thicker and a little spongy in texture. So I'm just spreading that out really well and getting it nice and flat before I actually bake it. So I do have the oven set to 350, and I believe the box directions say for an 8-inch cake it would take anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes. Mine took exactly 30 minutes, and when it was done baking, it was perfectly level. It was a really nice level cake, so I didn't even have to carve anything off of it before frosting it. So super pretty. Alright, so now we're going to work on that chocolate buttercream. So here I have 2 sticks of softened butter. Half a stick is salted, and the remaining 1.5 sticks is just unsalted. You can use all unsalted if you like, but I do like the little bit of salted butter to kind of balance the sweetness. So I'm just going to first whip this for a few minutes until the butter is light and fluffy. And now I'm going to add 100 grams of powdered sweetener. You can use your favorite one. Here I am actually using a Lakanto's monk fruit powdered sweetener. And we're just going to beat that up until everything's incorporated. And then we are going to add our cocoa powder, and that is 20 grams of cocoa powder. This I'm using Hershey's Special Dark. And just beat that in until all the cocoa is incorporated. And at this point, we want to just scrape down the beater and the mixing bowl just to make sure we got all the butter and cocoa, everything mixed in well. And next we're going to add 4 tablespoons of heavy cream. And again, give that a good mix. And then we're going to add our melted chocolate. This is 40 grams of melted chocolate. Use whatever kind of sugar-free chocolate chips you like. I am using Bake Believe's dark chocolate chips here. You can also use these, or you can even use just unsweetened chocolate. Might make your frosting may turn out a little less sweet, but it's only 40 grams, so that it's not going to be a huge deal. And then we're just going to scrape everything down really well and pop it back on the mixer, and we're just going to beat it on a medium-ish speed until it's light and fluffy. And at this point, if you want to thin your frosting out even more, you could add even more heavy cream or even some almond milk. So just let it beat for a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And once it's done, it should be a light milk chocolate color. And it should be nice and fluffy. So now we are going to frost that cake. So I have let that cake cool for a good 2 hours, and I have it on a cake board and I've flipped it over. So that is the bottom of the cake that you're currently seeing. So I am just going to just do a simple rustic style frosting on it. And this amount of frosting was the perfect amount to cover this cake. I think I had just a small amount left over. But even with, it wouldn't have been enough to pipe a bottom border if I wanted to. I didn't pipe a bottom border on this cake, just a top border. But it would have been enough to do that also. And voila. So now we are actually going to slice into the cake and give it a try. So the cake cut like butter, so cleanly. It was just so tender and soft. I was expecting, because a lot of homemade cakes tend to have a little bit of a grainier texture from the almond flour, but to me this did not have a grainy texture at all. It was very tender and stayed moist for days after I baked it. So the next day it was even better. The cake on its own I found to be a little bland, but when you pair it with this chocolate frosting, it is like the perfect birthday cake. And it was actually really delicious. So there you go, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.